What's up, everyone? Mark and Ali over here. We have been invited to the Nile's headquarters in San Jose, and we're just sitting in a room right now and just waiting for a couple of folks, technical folks, to come in so we can pick their brain. But in the meantime, I mean, we
got access to the racks, so we get to see all the cool gear. We got an AP over here. There's one right there too.
Let me nicely take it off.
That one's connected. There's one right there.
No, we're not gonna lick it.
No licking. No licking APs is not allowed within Nile Headquarters.
So what do we see over here? I don't know. We're just gonna guess, right, at this point, because we don't really know too much. I mean, I've done a couple of deployments, so I know some. I mean, I know these two are their core switches, NS 1500s looks like it, and I guess these are just regular access switches. I'm not sure what this is. And this...
Those look like servers or something.
Yeah, it looks like some kind of servers. I wonder what they do. So, NSB, right? Nile Service Block. I wonder if it has something to do with that. Maybe if the site is huge and you need some additional telemetry and data, that's what they probably use them for. We'll find out as, we get more into it with the technical people from Nile. I call this a Nile controller. It's not. However, it is pretty cool. I want to get one for my house or my lab. It's basically just a strip, and it has LEDs, and I believe they change color also. So just, for a cool factor. What else over here? I have not seen a 6E access points yet. Well, I think there's one outside maybe, but we'll see if somebody can show us 6E or 7. I'm sure that is like, an important talk these days.
Everybody
What's the
roadmap
roadmap?
About 6E.
Yeah. What are you doing with 6E? What are you doing with Wi-Fi 7, right? And
now that you've got an iPhone, what are we doing with 7? So
that's going to be an important thing. Yeah, but now everyone wanting to get iPhone 16 Pro. Yep. And I just upgraded mine literally last year, so I'm curious.
I'm right there with you. I'm like debating: do I buy the 7? Do I buy?
Going to get it or not?
15 Pro. So
yeah. So but think about like in enterprises or a lot of people who use iPhones and stuff like that. They're gonna be wanting to upgrade, right? They're gonna want latest and greatest MDU space, like especially like you'll see these people wanting to upgrade their iPhones and stuff like that, and they're going to be supporting Wi-Fi 7.
Yep.
So that means vendors have to keep up, obviously, right? And curious to find out what Nile has to say about it. Let's see. Let's on to the next step. All right. What's up, everyone? So Mark and I here at the Nile headquarters again, and this time we were able to pull Dipen, who's in product management at Nile Secure, and we have a couple of Nile access points this time with us. We showed you switches last time. We want to talk about simplicity, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things to talk about, but Nile focuses on simplicity, and he can explain it better than anyone else. First, go ahead and introduce yourself, and let's talk about simplicity.
Thanks a lot, Ali and Mark, for that. Hi, this is Deepen Verde. I'm part of the product management group here at Nile. We are as a service, so we basically call ourselves service owners to be technically accurate. But product management is simply understood by the world outside. And I focus on all things wireless, and here I am to talk a little bit about what we have done to sort of simplify the wireless experience, but yet provide a wireless that simply works. We have gotten testimonials from customers and anecdotes from customers that they say, hey, Nile Wireless, it just works, right? So I have a couple of APs here, so I'm going to talk a little bit about those. This was our first access point, Wi-Fi 6 based, and as you can see, it's a very simple design with a single LED, and the LED basically shows whether the service is up or not, right? Okay. Unlike in the past, we are used to kind of having several different colors on the LED. So we've tried to keep it very simple. And there's a QR code that always aligns with the LED. That's also very purposeful. And as you can see in the background over here, this is a mount which suffices for most of the T-mounts, and it's completely toolless, and some of you have had the opportunity to experience it yourself. And plus it comes with a flat cable that can essentially plug right in to the AP without kind of lifting your tile, which is what we typically see in
I personally
offices.
love that feature because of one of my deployments where I had to literally vacuum 4 stories because we were on deadline and low voltage vendors did not have time to clean up. So as they were poking holes to run cables, I had to go around and vacuum the carpet in the area. Well, in this case, with the way Nile does the deployment, I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
So I just absolutely love it. I mean, my concern was, some people say flat cable sometimes there'll be more errors, or it's not going to throughput issues and all that kind of stuff. I have not experienced anything like that in a couple of deployments that I have done.
Right.
Do you certify it? Like, have you tested and certified that there's not issues with those?
That's right. So
cables?
the flat cable actually ships with the box, and it's tested, and it's gone through rigorous testing from our manufacturing itself. So, but the only thing to be careful about is when you have too many hops in between, like and a cable goes from one the switch to a patch panel, and then from a patch panel to another patch panel, and then if it's like a far traversal, then there are sometimes some unknown things that you may run into, right?
No, correct me also if I'm wrong. Like your switchboard where it's in the end connected, that's also testing end-to-end communication, and if there's any errors and problems, it does report.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yes, we have alerts proactively that we generate internally if there are CRC errors on the cable, and we've actually seen quite a few of those in our customers, and we are able to inform the customers about potentially swapping the cables. We also detect any unexpected drop in the speed, like our access points are multi-gigi ports, 1, 2.5 and 5 Gbps.
Okay.
And sometimes because of bad cables, we have seen the auto negotiation drops to 1 Gbps or sometimes 100 Mbps, and we get a ticket for that, and then we proactively reach out to the customer and say, hey, you may want to take a look at this cable. So definitely, as a service, while we are simplifying a lot of things for the customers, we are the ones who have taken over a lot of that pain to detect automatically a lot of these things that typically happen in networks.
Okay. So simplifying not just the installation and provisioning and all that kind of stuff, simplifying the troubleshooting aspect of overall LAN and wireless.
That's absolutely right. The second piece of hardware here, this is our newest Wi-Fi 6E AP. We do have an outdoor model as well, which is Wi-Fi 6 based. Again, as you can see, we have kind of stepped up our game on the aesthetics portion of it. But again, as you can see, the consistency, right? We've tried to keep it simple. The QR code aligns with the LED, with the Nile logo at the top. And a little detail about what this ridge that you see on the AP. There's a little cool story behind that. As you know,
okay.
We are Nile, and this is actually the magic that our hardware team created. It's a portion of the Nile River taken from the satellite image. So there's a portion of the Nile River that essentially looks like this, and the texture part is essentially the river bank.
I did not know that.
That's
That's
cool.
all.
That's cool.
This is basically to say that hey, we are very serious and focused on our hardware, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's as a service, it's our own hardware. We build it, we design it, and these are the little things that I feel creates a brand. And we have been quoted as possibly a category-defining company. So these things are very important to us, right? So that's a little, cool tidbit about the Nile access point. Speaking of simplification, Ali, like we were discussing before, as a service, we have taken over the lifecycle management, right? What I mean by that is a lot of the guesswork is taken out of deploying networks. Right. We pay a lot of attention to our day 0 and day -1 data gathering and site survey. All of that data is then used directly into our channel planning, especially when it comes to RF. And that's a big change from how things are done traditionally, because there's one person who does the survey and the other one does a deployment, and then there's a third person who's actually trying to now configure the network. In our case, it's completely taken care of by Nile and the Nile partners, right? And we work very closely. The co-pilot system that we have essentially consumes all of the survey data and provides it to our channel planner, and you essentially get automated channel planner right off the bat, even during partial deployment.
So there's no actually configuration of channels and happening. So normally in a typical deployment, like in an average vendor, there's some kind of configuration that's getting applied to the radios, Okay, so we were talking about channel planning and RRM and configuration, right? In typical deployment, somebody is configuring something in the UI or CLI or some way that, hey, these are the radio settings, min-max power levels, these are the channels that are allowable channels, or Nile's doing it in some other way?
Exactly. The Nile essentially does that all behind the scenes. The customer doesn't have to worry about that at all. It's all automated. And that's the cool part, right? Because at the entire life cycle, we are involved right from day -1. And we have built systems that will consume all the data from the survey, because the survey data is essentially based on what ensures at least minus 67 dBm coverage everywhere. Okay. So it's quite intuitive if you think about it. Why not use the power levels that ensured the coverage in the survey? That can feed right into my channel planning settings as a start. The cool part is those could change based on environment, right? So we know the height of the AP, at what XY it's deployed at, and we know what power was used during the site survey. So right off the bat, we are starting with a very solid baseline. Even Nile Human is not involved in changing any settings in the channel planner in the background, just so we are clear about that.
So the AI is doing it?
The AI is doing it, right? Okay. Once you start with the solid baseline, then essentially what you're getting is a network that is deployed to the spec that you created during your RF site survey, right? And that entire process is automated. And one cool thing about our channel planner is a lot of time our customers and partners, they would like to start testing the network halfway through the deployment, because they want to get going on some of the feature testing and so on and so forth. So our
I'm guilty of that.
and Ali has been a part of that. And the cool thing is we run the channel planner more frequently when we know that the floor or that building is under a work order.
Okay.
That's again one of those unique things that we do as a service, right? Because nobody is having to wait until the entire deployment is done and then say that, okay, now enable the channel planner or start the automated channel planner. It's right out of the box, it's always running, and we are intelligent enough to know that these APs for these tenants are in the middle of the deployment. So we got to run the channel planner more frequently because you have newer and newer APs coming up. Otherwise, generally, once the deployment is done, the channel planner doesn't have to run that frequently. But it does have all the bells and whistles to react to any spurious interference and all of that good stuff. Again, automated. That definitely is a change from how customers are used to doing things. They are not having to worry about min-max power levels, what channels are allowed, not allowed. We essentially take care of that through the regulatory settings that are already determined based on the address. So if the tenant is in Spain, we would apply the right country code for the tenant in Spain. If the tenant is in US, then essentially we apply it that way.
So if you're working with a partner or somebody basically, and they don't even have, and they're doing a global deployment all over, they don't have to worry about, I guess, local regulatory bodies and what channels I need to exclude and which channels I need to include and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
You'll take care of that.
That also works for 6 gigahertz, correct?
Yes, 6 gigahertz, as you know, mostly it is the US, Canada, and parts of EU. So yes, with the 6E, we work in the background to get it certified in more and more regions. The Wi-Fi 6 is kind of ahead of that, but right now our 6E AP is definitely FCC certified, CE certified, HC certified. So it definitely it's good to go in a bunch of those regions.
GPS and 6E, I believe they do have
I'm glad you asked the question. So we do not have a GPS in our 6E AP.
Okay.
And so everyone's going to wonder, how does Nile plan to do AFC?
Okay. Yeah.
The answer is pure software-based AFC.
Okay.
And there is a service provider out there, and it's no secret. Qualcomm has a pure software-based AFC solution.
Okay.
And as a startup, every component we save on is dollars in our pocket, right, to be used somewhere else. So definitely, Qualcomm's software-based AFC service is what we are leveraging. It's under development as we speak at the moment, and we'll be excited to talk about that sometime next year. We are prototyping it and we are testing it out as we speak right now. So to your question, it is possible to do AFC without GPS. There's a well-published service and solution by Qualcomm out there.
Okay.
There was in fact a Wi-Fi Now webinar about that that was presented by some PMs from Qualcomm. Okay. And it's pretty cool what they do, and the accuracy is pretty comparable to what you would get with the GPS.
It's pretty cool to hear.
That is cool. I mean, cost saving and work still, so that's
Mhm.
great.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And these are, I mean, just one Ethernet port, right, in each one of them?
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and it's again,
PoE?
they are PoE only.
PoE plus?
Yes, that's right. So the Wi-Fi 6 AP, it needs a maximum of 32 watts.
Okay.
And the Wi-Fi 6E AP, it needs a maximum of up to 45 watts. But in real time, we all know they're not consuming that much. So we are typically, with the 6E, of course, it has an extra radio. We have seen like the typical usage go up to like 20 watts or so. The 6 AP is up to 15 watts or so on a day-to-day basis, right?
So we need PoE plus plus.
That's
for
right.
these?
That's right.
If you have just PoE plus, does it just turn off features or?
No, we don't have. It doesn't turn off any features. It basically will ask for 45 watts, and our switch will allocate it 45 watts, right?
Oh, okay. So I guess it doesn't really matter because I'm not having to worry about the PoE budget because you're
because
providing
we're
the
using your
switch
switches.
too.
That's
You're
right.
using your switch.
That's
So
right.
Don't have to worry
I
about
didn't
PoE
think
budget.
about your question.
Thinking of
Kevin.
other networking.
Yeah,
companies out
exactly.
there.
Yeah. So I mean, it was kind of implicitly assumed in my narrative that they are plugging into Nile switches.
Okay.
And of course,
Gotcha.
we're allocating them
Absolutely.
45 watts.
So I mean, they'll technically work if I plug it into another vendor's switch, as long as it's getting a PoE plus or whatever the power it needs. But however, doesn't really matter because Nile's providing the switches.
You're speccing everything.
That's right.
You're speccing.
You're speccing the whole build.
That's correct.
And you're building it appropriately.
And I think that goes back to my comment about the day -1 and day 0 planning, right?
Okay.
Essentially, it's all automated BOM based on the coverage and capacity and the number of wired ports you need. We have an automated BOM calculator that will essentially spit out what is required.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, from my recall, the couple of deployments that I was involved in, it seems like, I mean, yeah, your SC had all that calculated out. I didn't have to worry about which models of switches I need
Exactly.
and what power PoE budget I need to calculate and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that part was pretty much done, so it was pretty fast. It was kind of done like, oh, okay.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and what cables do you need? What SFPs do you need? I think that again goes back to the benefit of building a very deterministic Lego block architecture, right? There is a certain way Nile gets deployed, and that's essentially repeatable. That's why you hear us use this term to death. This Lego block architecture. And that helps simplify a lot of those operations and misses and stuff that you would otherwise see, because if a deployment is different from the other, then the type of accessories that get shipped with it, things fall through. But with Nile, a lot of that is pretty deterministic.
Okay. And you have a team, obviously, because as a service, right, that we're talking about here. So you obviously there's partners involved, there's customer involved. Nile has a team also that gets engaged during the provisioning stage to provide support to the customer and the partner, whatever's involved.
Right. Right. So from a organization perspective, of course, internally, we have our customer support engineering team,
Okay.
and then there is a team called the production network engineering team,
Okay.
short P&E for short. And of course, when it's deployment time, it's all about the core. right? The core is the Nile service block, the Nile switches, the Nile gateways, the access points. So we treat that as the core essentially getting deployed. So absolutely, we have tried to enhance our mobile app and provide everything necessary in the mobile app for troubleshooting and for a smooth deployment experience. But if something were to go sideways, of course, you reach out to the support team and they can help you get unblocked. And that again, there is level of determinism involved, so they're able to pinpoint and help you with any of those little kinks that you may run into during deployment fairly quickly.
And also, as I understand, using the mobile app, I mean, that's to gather data before deployment, and we're also using it then during the deployment phase, and obviously then that turns into documentation as well, right? That customers can get if they want, and all that kind of stuff. What else can I push out changes? I mean, can I push out things to the Nile dashboard? For example, I don't know, you want to create another SSID, right? So let's say there's 5 SSIDs. Can we do that from the app?
No, not today. The app is purely for data gathering, as you mentioned, and heavily for day one. The whole service bring up essentially is what the mobile app does. For any of your settings that the customer has to do, or the partner is helping the customer do, you essentially would go to the Nile portal, which is our we call it also the Nile Copilot, because there is some AI and ML involved in what we have done for the customers in the Nile portal. And even there, speaking of simplicity, again, the settings that you see for adding an SSID, adding service areas, it's pretty streamlined, very easy to understand, and the customer can just follow along and create an SSID. Not through the mobile app though; it has to be the Nile.
It has to be the Nile portal. Okay, gotcha. Okay. I want to back up a little bit. You mentioned these lights are, for example, to show if it's communicating with the service, right? So, no, like reading light codes like this. I mean, if it turns green or red or yellow or something, it's either off or on kind of thing.
Yeah, it is on once it's up and running.
Okay.
But it is really just from an end user perspective or the end customer perspective, there's only a couple of LED colors that you have to worry about.
Okay.
3 at the most. So the red, if it's like constantly solid red, then we know that there is some hardware fault.
Okay.
And that's something that's going to be very rare, because going back to our industrial design and the experience that the team brings building hardware, collectively the company has more than 30 plus years of experience building hardware. The 2 other LED statuses would be green is basically the service is up and you are able to get to the internet. That's essentially what green means, right? If it starts to blink blue, that means, hey, the service is not only the service is down, but most likely there is something not okay with the Nile service block.
Okay.
And Nile would know that beforehand anyway, because Nile is not going to have eyes on the LED, of course, right? But we have information already that an AP is offline, or the AP is not able to communicate with the rest of the Nile service block. So there are very specific LED statuses which the customer only has to worry about. If it's green, I have service. If it's not green,
there's a problem.
There's a problem.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So not a whole bunch of different complicated things to kind of try to memorize and see what's happening and everything. Because again, you'll take care of it.
Right.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Going over all these different details. There's a lot more to this. This is just like, we're just scratching the surface. There's a whole head end and switching part of this. There's a lot more that can be talked about, the Wi-Fi and the dashboard. Mark and I are going to be actually definitely having more conversations, on our channel, Tower's Edge. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and support us. And keep an eye out on additional content that we're going to be talking with different team members from Nile and see some of the cool things that they're doing to alleviate some of the challenges that we face as engineers and as decision makers when we're deploying or trying to figure out which network we're going to deploy, which vendor we want to go with. Thank you everyone for watching. Appreciate it, and see you next time.
I'm excited to
Thank
get
you.
one, finally holding one of these in my hands. So thanks everybody.
All
You're
right,
gonna
thank
hold
you.
the 6E one.
Oh yeah, I want to hold this. Yes.